The newest DJI drone has been recently released, the Mavic 3, and it touts a dual camera system for $2,200. Tiernan Ray is here with me to talk about it. Tiernan, go ahead, tell us about the specs on this drone.
Beth, the Mavic 3 is, as it sounds, the third generation of DJI's highly foldable, highly portable drone. You can see that it's roughly the size of a Starbucks venti. This just was released in November, and as with prior versions, going back to the first Mavic series drone in 2016, it folds up pretty nicely, which means you could carry it with you anywhere. But it also has some pretty terrific specs. The main thing that they did with this new version of the Mavic is they slimmed it down, actually, despite putting more horsepower into it. And they increase the camera capability. So the camera in this one is, for the first time, is a dual camera system. It has two Hasselblad, which are high-end lens and chip combinations. Two Hasselblad cameras. One is a telephoto camera and one is a wide-angle camera. And so you can get two kinds of angles on things. The flying time has been increased to just over 45 minutes from what had been basically a half an hour. And the cruising speed is now 6 meters per second, which is up from 5 meters per second. So there's a bunch of different technical details packaged into something slightly slimmer and slightly lighter weight than the prior version. But the big feature is this new camera and gimbal system in the front, where you can see that there's a smaller camera on top and a larger camera on the bottom.
I'm really impressed with how small that started to how big that can be. It's very compact when you aren't using it.
The premise of the Mavic series from DJI, really from the beginning 5 years ago, was that this is the first drone that can do commercial quality video filming that can be in the air for a long time, and that can also be folded up and taken with you in just a shoulder bag.
So not only is there a Mavic 3, but there's also a Mavic 3 Cine option. What is the difference between these two?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
at the top end of the Mavic 3 line, as you said, it starts out at $2,100 for the basic unit. But if you want to really up your game for $5,000, you can buy a version of the same drone that has a couple of differentiating factors. One, instead of the typical onboard 8 gigabytes of storage, it will have a flash drive that is 1 terabyte in capacity. And it also will have a high bandwidth connection cable. The reason you might want to do that is, along with the dual camera system, one of the differentiating factors of this version of Mavic versus the prior, the Mavic 2 Pro, is that instead of filming only in 4K resolution and below, the drone will now film in a couple more high-end options. So for example, there is support for what Apple calls its Apple ProRes codec, which is a higher resolution video codec, and that is used by a lot of film production units. So that's the first time for this highly portable series to have Apple ProRes. It's a big boost. There's also something called 5.1K, which is above 4K. So 4K is usually a resolution of 3,840 pixels by 2,160 pixels at 24 frames up to 120 frames per second. Above that, you get into what's called DCI 4K, which is slightly higher resolution, 4,096 pixels by 2,160 pixels. And now we have 5.1K. I didn't even know it existed, but 5.1K is 5,120 pixels by 2,700 pixels, also at 24 frames per second, up to 50 frames per second. So you can do normal and slow-mo takes now in this much higher resolution. So obviously, if you're going to be storing a lot more bits of video, it's conceivable that you might want to have a larger onboard storage system for that. So hence, you will pay up. You'll pay $5,000 for a 1 terabyte SSD drive, and you'll pay for this special custom proprietary DJI high-speed link to connect from the drone to your Apple workstation or whatever you're using to then download or upload the video and then edit it.
All right, Tiernan, I can't wait for you to test it out and to let us know what you think, because it's one thing to read off the specs, but it's another thing to throw the thing in the air and see how it does. So to follow back up with this video and to see how the Mavic 3 performs, be sure to stick with ZDNet. Thanks for watching.